Okay, all right, guys. So today's discussion or demo and lesson plan is going to be how to design a graphic style character while still maintaining, the energy and the life and the movement, the personality. A lot of times when you deal with graphic characters, you start to lose. Everyone's so worried about making it so graphic and keeping it that simple shape, you lose any sense of life, So that's what today's lesson is going to be about, okay? And the first thing you want to just think about, the first point is the narrative, like you do with any character, okay? So the who, all right? So with this who, it's an erratic, goofy clown who happens to be a penguin, all right? And that is the what. So the who being the erratic, goofy clown type, and the what is the actual, what his breed is, what the subject is, okay? This will all dictate, your posing and your personality in the design, and that will then inspire the movement and the life, of the actual character. Sometimes your first sketches won't exactly be the actual one, the design or the shape play that actually has a lot more life to it. This only really comes out after you've done your reference studies and you've really figured out the shapes of your subject. Once you decide on that shape, then you can start to really bend it and push it in a way that actually describes the character and who they are. Okay. So once you have figured out the who, right? And then you figured out the actual shape, the actual shape choice, right? And then you can figure out how you're going to exploit that shape. Then you can actually go in and start to bend and twist and roll it, upside down, however it is that anything that actually helps describe that character. You're taking that graphic shape design, that graphic form, and actually starting to move it in a way that actually really describes who that character is. If it's a slovenly, lethargic type character, it would not have a pose like this, right? Okay. And this is all after you've actually done your reference studies and you've figured out the shapes and the shapes that make up that animal, right? And it doesn't, this applies for any, subject matter, not necessarily, just limited to animals. So because he's all erratic and goofy and clown-like, it's almost like the way he walks and he's kind of all over the place. So I want to bring that idea into the design, right? You want to say it in pictures and not in words, all right? Less exposition, more drawing. So if you see, there's a nice graphic, silhouette, barring the protrusions for his appendages, his wings and his feet and stuff. But it has a lot of movement to it at the same time. There's a lot of bend and twist in there. It has a little sense of life without actually even really doing expression, without adding so much more. Never rely completely on the expression. For the narrative sense of your character, you should rely a lot on the posing, and a lot of how you actually put them into situations and stuff, okay? Anyway, after you've worked your shape into movement and actually have worked on the personality and the story, the character is starting to get there, this kind of erratic, goofy behavior that you're seeing within with my actual posing of the character. Then I'm going to start to use some the innate physical traits of the African penguin to really describe who he is, okay? And to really actually also break up the shape and help describe his role. In this case, it's a clown, right? So I've studied, I don't have the studies obviously in front of me, but it's something you would be doing on your own. But I'm actually going to use the patterning to help in the role description. You want to do that more and in a visual way. You want to do that instead of actually relying on like a generic human costume, right? You want to avoid what's called like unnecessary cliche additives. You know, instead you want to actually find a clever and clear way to communicate who that character is within the design. All right. So I'm really going to use the breakup of this certain breed of penguin. Like for instance, when I talk about the physical traits and using them to help describe who he is, I'm actually going to take the feather breakup that's usually up around the neck, and I'm start to create a contour of a clown bow tie. All right. But not letting it overpower. And I'm going to take this to a full marker rendering so you'll really see. Okay. One thing about the African penguin is that it actually has almost like a Dalmatian type pattern to its pelt, to actual like the down feathers on the front where it's kind of white here. They kind of get that black breakup. So I'm actually going to start to take that black breakup. And thinking still about the role of my character, right? I'm going to use the black part of those feathers to make it feel like those furry puffballs on the front of a clown costume, okay? Let's see what I got here. They're also black in the face as opposed to white, you know, up in that area. And so, you know, I started, as I was creating this character, I was starting to think about, well, what's another way to really help the narrative, you know? Anything that adds to the story is a good thing, all right? Always try to find interesting ways and clear ways to add to the story and help describe that character in a visual form, all right? So whereas like a clown always paints on the white makeup, you know, over their face, I started to use in reversed as the actual black part of this subject of the African penguin's face to actually make it feel like it's like the actual makeup, right? All right. I'm going to quickly finish the sketch so I can actually start adding a color pass on here so you can really see. Make him slightly cross-eyed to add to that story point of he's just a goofball. He is a goofball. And if you see, like, you know, they have, going back to the graphic, iconic design style, you know, with penguins, you know, they have the individual, you know, on the claws at the end of their feet and stuff, and it's usually broken up, you know, your typical duck pattern, right? Can you see that? Okay, you can kind of see it, all right. Well, with this, I'm going to actually take graphic shape and then break it up, all right, in an interesting manner to create those individual toes. So beyond just actually using the physical innate traits of the subject to help, you know, describe the role and describe who he is and help with the story point, I'm also trying to find interesting ways to break up the negative space and start to actually show texture as well. Okay. I'm liking the way this is working shape-wise. One thing I also want to mention is, you know, I teach a lot about different design mechanics. And the first lesson was more about, you know, character design from life, and I was talking about the flow and composition. And then this one I'm talking about, you know, bringing movement and life to the actual character, to a graphic shape design. and also how to, like, you know, use the innate physical traits to really create the role of the character and tell who they are. I just want you to know that it's not all approached in solitude, you know.